Hey everyone, we are so excited that you are tuning in. We're going to talk to you about the book of Judges. So excited. All right, so let's jump right into this. So, who wrote the book of Judges?
Tradition says Samuel, perhaps it was another prophet or priest.
All right, and do we know when the book of Judges was written?
1500 to 1000 BC.
Okay. All right, so can you tell us about some of the main themes that we are going to see throughout this book?
The big theme is basically understanding what a judge is and why that office is important in Israel. And so now they're in, as you know, the promised land. They've come into the land that God has promised them. And there's a lot of raiders that don't really want them there. And so these judges arise more for a military and defense role and leadership role for Israel than they do as a judge that we might think of, where they arbitrate between people or something like that. It's more of a deliverer and a military leader, and
maybe like a captain or a general as opposed to like a court judge. Okay, that helps.
But they do play other political roles than just the military. So
all right, cool. Okay, what other themes should we look for?
The other themes are just really fascinating people. These judges are really fascinating, and so the focus on them and their leadership, and then kind of the overarching theme of the book is pretty simple. It's stay true to God and His covenant that you've made, that God has made with Israel and that Israel has made with God, and you'll find God's favor, or go after the other gods, and then God will use some of these raiders and surrounding tribes to control and to enslave Israel, I guess, in a way, and so that He might woo them back.
Yeah. And it moves pretty quick, doesn't it? Do you want to talk a little bit about that, kind of the flow of the book, or what we're going to see through that?
So it kind of goes from one judge to the next is kind of the flow of the book, and they're such descriptive stories, and to this day in all the ancient Near East and all the different writings from other societies and cultures besides Israel, there's nothing like the book of Judges. And the author employs all kinds of literary devices to tell the story of the different judges, from prayers and songs to even sometimes fables and riddles.
Wow. And some crazy stuff happening. I know some of the people that we've already experienced. Can you want to tell them about your reference, or kind of what you've seen as we've talked about it?
I posted today something about Ehud and Eglon. Ehud is like the third judge of Israel, and in order to conquer Eglon, he goes in to pretend that he's got a secret message to give him, and so Eglon sends all of the other soldiers and guards out of the hall and locks the hall, and then he comes close to him to supposedly whisper the secret, and he has a sword strapped to his right side, and to be unexpected, what Eglon doesn't know is that Ehud is left-handed, and he takes his left hand and grabs that sword and runs him through. And it's, if you read it, it's very much like The Godfather.
Yeah.
In so many ways, locking the doors, the way to describe the actual death of Eglon, how Ehud kind of calmly just walks away and leaves the sword there. Take the cannolis, leave again. So it's really descriptive, kind of cinematography type of storytelling that I think you'll find different than what we've encountered to this point. Even in Genesis, where they were telling narratives and stories of people and so forth.
It feels like a Hollywood script, definitely. And today we read about the tent stake and Jael. I don't know if that's how you say it or not, but oh my gosh. So yeah, lots of stuff. And I feel like it's fast paced too, because we see these periods of 8 years of peace, or 8 years of oppression, or 40 years of peace, followed by the oppression. So I feel like we're covering a lot of ground quickly as we go from one judge to the next. So that's probably just kind of part of those literary devices, right? All right, what other themes can we tell everyone about?
Probably just the last thing I would say is, you know, we're going to meet some of the most fascinating stories, even stories that we tell our kids, like Samson.
Yeah.
And we've already encountered some of those really good ones too, Gideon,
Mm-hmm.
Jael, and Deborah.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, and I love how, usually we just kind of pull out these people, like in our, Bible stories or that sort of thing. But to see them like back to back to back, I think is really helping to understand, we know where we've been and where we're at right now, and just seeing these characters one after another is pretty cool. All right, how about some links to Christ? Do we have anything specific we should look for as far as preparing for Jesus' arrival in the New Testament?
just that, Jesus always seemed to be and welcoming towards and to have his eye on the outcast and to the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we find in Judges is a lot of underdogs who become the heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Women and left-handers.
Yeah.
And even doubters. If you read like the story of Gideon that you read for today,
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
it wasn't really the model of faith we might think of, and yet he plays such an important role, and God continues to work through him and is patient with him through that process of testing God almost in a way.
Yeah. When he says, "Please don't be angry, but can I make one more request?" So how often we do that too, right? You know?
And then lastly, with those who have kind of gone astray and gone against God's promises and sinned, that God still has grace, that we see that grace of Christ in the story of Samson, I think especially.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to spoil it because I know I've been a spoiler, but there's some grace there in that story, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. All right. Well, if you have any questions, make sure you drop those below as we're going through the readings from Judges. But it's pretty exciting. It is definitely different from the other books that we've had. So hope you guys are enjoying it and gleaning from it as we go through. So anything else?
Just that I hope you make some movies out of these little stories and that you post them for us to see.
Please don't act out some of these crazy things. This is not what they teach in children's Sunday school.
Try this at home.
Oh my gosh, he was joking with me. Wanted to name Maggie JL. As soon as I looked up that story, I was like, I don't think so.
Which means mountain goat in Hebrew.
Yeah, well,
it's a beautiful girl's name.
Yeah, and her legacy. I mean, I guess she's a hero, but I don't know. She's pretty brave.
She knows how to cure headaches.
Oh my gosh. All right, it's late. We are going to go to bed. Hope you guys enjoyed our little intro. Have a good night.
All right.
See ya.